In the storm-wracked Cordillera Mountains, a widowed farmer chasing her escaped pig stumbled into a hidden Spanish colonial tunnel. What she found would threaten her life. Maria Dulnuan wasn't your typical mountain widow. For 5 years, she'd quietly raised her daughter in poverty, carrying indigenous wisdom most dismissed as superstition. When her pig Banlag broke through a concealed cave wall, Maria discovered gold and documents proving her community's ancestral land rights, evidence worth millions that would pit her against corrupt politicians, mining corporations, and killers. One ordinary woman's refusal to stay silent would spark a revolution. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning began like every other morning in Maria Dulnuan's life. Quietly, with work to be done, she woke before dawn, as always, and moved through her small wooden house with the economy of motion that came from 47 years of mountain living. The floor creaked under her feet as she padded to the kitchen, where she prepared tapui rice coffee and fried leftover rice with garlic. Through the window, the Cordillera Mountains rose in shadowed layers, their peaks lost in pre-dawn mist. "Nay, I'm going to be late," Elon's voice carried from the bedroom they shared, sharp with teenage urgency. Maria smiled despite herself. "Your jeepney doesn't leave for another hour. Eat first." Her daughter emerged, already dressed in her school uniform, phone in hand as always. At 17, Alon had her father's height and Maria's determined jaw, but something else too, a restlessness that Maria recognized but couldn't quite understand. Luis had been content with mountain life. Alon dreamed of Manila. "I need to study before class," Alon said, but she sat anyway, scrolling through her phone while picking at her breakfast. "Did you see the scholarship results are posted next week?" Maria's chest tightened. The university scholarship. Alon had talked of little else for months. If she got it, she'd leave for Manila in June. If she didn't, Maria couldn't afford the tuition, couldn't afford much of anything beyond their daily needs. "The spirits will provide," Maria said, invoking her grandmother's words without quite believing them. Alon rolled her eyes. "Nay, the spirits don't award scholarships. My grades do," but her voice softened. "I'll get it. You'll see." After Elon left for school, Maria walked to the pen behind their house where Banlag snorted and grunted, eager for his morning feed. The pig had grown massive over 2 years, easily 200 pounds of muscle and intelligence wrapped in bristled hide. Maria had raised him from a runt piglet, intending to sell or butcher him for desperately needed income. But Banlag had proven special. He learned to unlatch gates. He found wild mushrooms and brought them to Maria's door. He seemed to sense storms before they arrived, and danger before it struck. The village children called him blessed by the Anitos, the mountain spirits. Maria called him foolish for getting attached to livestock, but she had gotten attached. "Good morning, Anak," she murmured, scratching behind his ears. Banlag leaned into her touch, making contented sounds. "Big festival next month. You're going to win first prize, I think. Then maybe we sell you to someone who appreciates a champion pig, yes." Even as she said it, Maria knew she probably wouldn't. Couldn't. She spent the morning in her vegetable garden, harvesting what she could sell at the market. The work was meditative, hands in soil, back bent, mind quiet. This was the life she knew, the life her grandmother had taught her, simple, honest, poor but dignified. By midday the sky had changed. Dark clouds massed over the peaks, moving fast, swallowing the blue. The wind picked up, carrying the sharp scent of rain. Maria's knees ached. The old injury from years ago, her personal weather predictor. This wasn't just a storm. This was a typhoon. "Typhoon Rosing," they called it on the radio, Dina shouted from her sari-sari store across the path. Her friend's round face was creased with worry. "Category 3, they said. Coming straight for us." Maria worked quickly to secure her property. She brought in everything that could blow away, reinforced Banlag's pen with extra rope and lumber, checked the roof ties. Elon came home early. School had been dismissed. They prepared together efficiently, the way mountain people did when storms threatened. "We'll be fine," Maria assured her daughter. Houses survived worse. By sunset, Rosing arrived with fury. Rain hammered their tin roof like 1,000 drummers. Wind shrieked through the trees, bending them horizontal. Lightning split the sky in jagged white scars. Maria and Alon huddled inside, a battery-powered lamp casting shadows on the walls. "Nay, I'm scared," Alon admitted, and for a moment she was a little girl again, not the ambitious teenager dreaming of escape. "We're safe here," Maria said, pulling her close. "The mountains protect us." Then came the crash from outside, wood splintering, metal screaming. Maria grabbed the flashlight and fought her way to the back door. Through the rain, she saw disaster. Banlag's pen had collapsed, the reinforced gate torn away by wind. And Banlag was gone. No, no, no! Maria stumbled into the storm, Alon screaming behind her. "Nay, don't! It's too dangerous." But Maria was already moving, flashlight beam cutting through rain. Banlag represented months of feed costs, dozens of hours of care. More than that, he was hers. Her responsibility, her friend, if she was honest. She found his tracks in the muddy path, deep hoofprints heading into the forest. Toward the mountains, toward the old caves. "Nay, please." Alon caught her arm. "He's just a pig. Let him go. He'll die out there." Maria pulled free. Go inside. I'll be back soon." "You're insane." "This is insane." Maybe it was. But Maria was already following the tracks, already committed. Behind her, Alon's protests faded into the roar of the storm. The forest was nightmare territory in the typhoon. Trees groaned and cracked. Rain came sideways, stinging like needles. Maria's flashlight showed her Banlag's trail, broken branches, disturbed undergrowth, hoofprints in mud. He was heading upslope, toward the limestone caves that riddled the mountain. The caves, the old people said, were cursed. Maria had never been superstitious. Spirits and curses were stories for children, but as she climbed higher, storm raging around her, she felt something. A pull, a sense of inevitability, as if invisible threads drew her forward. Her grandmother had told stories about these caves, about Spanish colonizers hiding treasures, about ancestors guarding secrets, about a woman who would come, marked by a spirit animal, who would find what was lost. Old stories, meaningless. But Maria's hands trembled as she reached the main cave entrance, a dark mouth in the mountainside. Banlag's tracks led inside, and from the darkness came his squeals, frightened, desperate, deep within. Maria stood at the threshold, rain streaming from her hair, flashlight in hand. Every practical instinct screamed at her to turn back, to go home, to let the pig go. Instead, she whispered a prayer to her grandmother's spirit and stepped into the darkness. Behind her, lightning struck the mountain. Thunder rolled like drums, and Maria Dulnuan, ordinary widow, crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. Maria's flashlight beam pushed weakly against the cave's absolute darkness. The transition from storm to stone was jarring. One moment chaos and rain. The next, cold silence broken only by water dripping somewhere deep within. The sound echoed strangely, as if the mountain itself were breathing. "Banlag." Her voice bounced back to her, distorted. "Tarana, come home!" Only his squeals answered, distant and echoing, impossible to pinpoint in the acoustic maze. The cave entrance narrowed almost immediately into a passage barely wide enough for Maria's shoulders. She had to turn sideways, the limestone wall rough against her back, her chest. The stone was cold even through her wet clothes, and it scraped her skin when she moved too quickly. Her breathing sounded too loud in the confined space. "This is foolishness," she thought. "Turn back. The pig isn't worth your life." But her feet kept moving forward. The passage twisted and turned, sometimes opening into small chambers, sometimes narrowing until Maria had to exhale to squeeze through. Water dripped steadily, collecting in small pools that soaked her shoes. The air tasted of minerals and earth and time itself, ancient, untouched by sun or wind for centuries, perhaps millennia. Banlag's cries came intermittently, always ahead, always deeper. Maria marked her path mentally, trying to memorize each turn. Getting lost in here would mean death. Slow, dark, inevitable. Her grandmother's voice whispered in memory, "The mountain keeps secrets, Anak." Some things are buried for good reason. I don't believe in spirits, Maria muttered to the darkness. I don't believe in curses, but her hands shook as she navigated a particularly tight section, and she found herself praying anyway. To her grandmother, to the Anitos, to God, to whoever might be listening in this underworld of stone. The passage opened suddenly, spilling Maria into a chamber perhaps 20 feet across. She swept her light around and her breath caught. This wasn't a natural cave. Tool marks scored the walls in deliberate patterns, chisel strikes, systematic excavation. Rotted timber supports stood in the corners, ancient beams that had once held up the ceiling. And carved into one wall, faint but unmistakable, was a cross, Spanish, colonial, 300 years old. At least, Jusco, Maria breathed. Banlag stood at the far wall, his substantial bulk pressed against the stone. He wasn't just rooting around randomly, he was digging with purpose, his front hooves striking the same spot repeatedly, systematically. Dirt and small stones scattered around him in growing piles. "What are you doing, you crazy animal?" Maria moved toward him, then stopped. Where Banlag had been digging, the wall looked different. Newer mortar, paler than the surrounding stone, crumbled under his assault. Someone had sealed something here, and not during the cave's natural formation. This was human work. Deliberate concealment. Banlag, stop. We need to... The pig renewed his efforts with almost frantic intensity, and suddenly a section of the wall gave way with a grinding crack. Stones tumbled forward. Dust billowed up in a choking cloud. Maria coughed, eyes watering, stumbling backward. When the dust settled, her flashlight revealed a hole in the wall, and beyond it, not natural cave, but a tunnel, carved, constructed, leading into manufactured darkness. Every instinct Maria possessed screamed at her to run, to grab Banlag and flee back through those narrow passages to the storm, to normalcy, to her ordinary life. This was wrong. This was dangerous. This was something that had been hidden for reasons, but Banlag was already squeezing through the opening, his bulk barely fitting. And something else held Maria frozen, a feeling she couldn't name, couldn't rationalize, as if hands pressed gently at her back. As if a voice too quiet to hear whispered, "Look, see, this is why you came. The spirits chose you," her grandmother had said once near the end. "When the time comes, you will know your purpose." Maria had dismissed it as fever dreams. The old woman had been dying, her mind wandering. But now, standing before this hidden tunnel, Maria wondered. She squeezed through the gap. The tunnel beyond was unmistakably man-made. Hewn stone lined the walls, fitted together with the precision of Spanish colonial engineering, the same craftsmanship that had built churches and fortresses throughout the Philippines 3 centuries ago. Her light fell on carved symbols, a cross elaborate and faded. Spanish words she couldn't fully read, but recognized as formal, official. And stamped into the stone, the seal of colonial authority, 3 castles and a lion, the emblem of Spanish rule. "This isn't possible," Maria whispered. But it was here, real, undeniable. The tunnel sloped downward, deeper into the mountain. Maria followed it, one hand trailing the wall for balance, the other holding her flashlight steady. Banlag's hoofbeats echoed ahead. The air grew colder, drier, preserved somehow from the moisture of the caves. How far did this go? Who had built it? And most importantly, why hide a tunnel behind a cave wall, sealing it so thoroughly that 300 years passed before a pig accidentally broke it open? The tunnel ended in a chamber that stole Maria's breath. It was perhaps 30 feet across, carved from solid rock. And it was full. Wooden crates lined one wall, their wood darkened with age, but remarkably preserved in the dry air. Claypots sat in careful rows, some still sealed. And in the center of the chamber, catching Maria's light like captured stars, sat an ornate chest bound in tarnished metal, silver perhaps, or steel gone black with centuries. Banlag had found a corner where ancient grain had spilled from a broken container. He rooted through the scattered seeds contentedly, finally calm, as if his mission were complete. Maria approached the chest like a sleepwalker. This couldn't be real. She was dreaming. She'd hit her head in the passage, and this was concussion or fever or death, and soon she'd wake in her bed with Alon shaking her shoulder, but the chest was solid under her trembling hands. The lock had corroded to rust centuries ago. She lifted the lid. Gold gleamed in her flashlight beam. Not a vast fortune. She'd seen enough movies to know what pirate treasure looked like. But more gold than Maria Dulnuan, vegetable farmer, had ever seen in her life. Coins stamped with Spanish royal seals, their edges worn but their purity unmistakable. Small bars, each bearing official marks. Jewelry worked in old styles. Rings, chains, religious medallions. Maria's hands moved without conscious thought, lifting pieces, feeling their weight. Her practical mind calculated automatically. This much gold could pay for Alon's university, could build a new house, could change everything, but that wasn't what made her gasp. Nestled among the gold, wrapped in oilcloth that had preserved them remarkably well, were bundles of documents. Maria lifted one with shaking fingers and carefully unwrapped it. Parchment, covered in formal Spanish script. Her elementary education didn't extend to colonial Spanish, but she recognized certain words. Tierra, land. Propiedad, property. Pueblo, town or people. Names written in careful calligraphy. Some she almost recognized from village stories. And maps, detailed sketches of territories that looked familiar. The valley where her barangay stood. The mountains around it. Boundaries marked and measured. Official seals marked every page. Royal seals, church seals, colonial administrative marks that carried the weight of law 3 centuries old, but preserved perfectly in this hidden darkness. Inang, Maria whispered, but not in fear this time. In terrible, awestruck understanding, this wasn't just treasure. This was proof, evidence. History that someone, her ancestors perhaps, had hidden away, preserved against some future need. Land grants, property deeds, documents that might prove ownership, rights, claims to territories that the government and mining companies now said belonged to others. Her mind raced. This could change everything. For her village, for all the indigenous communities fighting, losing battles against corporations and politicians who claimed their ancestral lands. This was ammunition in a war her people had been fighting for generations, but it was also dangerous. Deadly even. The kind of discovery that made people vanish. That brought government officials and treasure hunters and powerful men who would kill to possess it or destroy it. Maria understood with sudden clarity why this had been hidden, and why finding it meant her life would never be simple again. She made her decision quickly, born from mountain pragmatism and grandmother's wisdom. She took 3 of the document bundles, choosing the ones that looked most official, most complete. She took a handful of gold coins. Not theft, she told herself, but evidence, proof. Her small shoulder bag barely held them all. Her phone. She still had charge. Maria photographed everything she could. The chest, the crates, the tunnel walls with their symbols. The documents spread on the stone floor. Evidence that couldn't be disputed or denied. Come, Banlag, she said softly. We have to go. We have to be very, very careful now. The pig looked at her with his small, intelligent eyes. For a heartbeat, Maria could have sworn he understood everything. Then he trotted to her side, docile now, as if whatever purpose had driven him here had been fulfilled. The journey back through the cave seemed longer, the passages narrower. Maria's shoulder bag felt impossibly heavy, not with the physical weight of gold and paper, but with the weight of responsibility, of knowledge, of a burden she hadn't asked for but couldn't refuse. The guardian's burden, Lolo Dagum called it in his stories. The spirits choose someone to protect what was hidden, to use it wisely when the time is right. I'm not a guardian, Maria muttered to the darkness. I'm just a widow trying to survive, but the documents in her bag said otherwise. At the cave entrance, she paused. Storm still raged outside, rain and wind and lightning splitting the sky. But it seemed less frightening now than what lay behind her. Less dangerous than what she carried, Maria Dulnuan, ordinary woman, stood between 2 worlds. Behind her, secrets buried for 3 centuries. Ahead, a future she couldn't imagine. full of danger she didn't understand. She pulled her jacket tight, felt the weight of her burden, and stepped into the storm. Banlag trotted faithfully at her heels, blessed by spirits or simple animal luck. Leading her home through the typhoon's fury, Maria reached home near midnight, soaked and shaking with cold and adrenaline. Alon met her at the door, tears streaming down her face. "I thought you were dead." She threw her arms around Maria, then pulled back angrily. "You're insane! For a pig." "I'm sorry, Anak. I'm so sorry." Maria held her daughter close, feeling the tremors in both their bodies. "But we're safe. Banlag is safe. I don't care about Banlag. I care about you." The words hung between them, heavy with years of unspoken fear, Alon's terror of losing her mother the way she'd lost her father. Maria swallowed hard. "Go to bed," she said gently. "We'll talk in the morning." Alon hesitated, then trudged to their bedroom. Maria waited until she heard her daughter's breathing slow into sleep before she moved. The documents and gold were still in her bag, wrapped in her jacket. Maria hid them in the false bottom of an old storage trunk, a space Luis had built for important papers, back when they had any papers important enough to hide. Her hands still trembled as she arranged rice sacks over the trunk to disguise it. She didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Her mind replayed the cave, the tunnel, the chest, the documents with their official seals and careful maps, the gold that could solve her every problem. The danger that lurked in both. What was she supposed to do with this? Report it to authorities who might seize everything? Sell the gold on the black market? Pretend she'd never found it? "The spirits chose you," her grandmother whispered in memory. "You will know what to do." "I don't know," Maria whispered back to the darkness. "I don't know anything." The next 2 days passed in surreal normalcy. Typhoon Rosing moved on, leaving the village waterlogged but intact. People cleaned up debris, assessed damage, returned to their routines. Maria worked alongside neighbors, hauling fallen branches, helping repair Dina's sari-sari store roof. "You look terrible," Dina observed, tying down tin sheeting. "Didn't sleep?" "Bad dreams," Maria lied. "You're worried about Alon's scholarship." Dina had known her too long to be fooled completely. "She'll get it." "That girl is too smart to fail." Maria nodded, but her mind was elsewhere, on documents hidden under rice sacks, on a decision she had to make but didn't know how to make. That evening, after Alon left to study with friends, Maria pulled out her daughter's smartphone. Alon had showed her before how to use the translation app, point the camera at text, and the app would translate it. Simple, modern magic. Maria spread one of the documents carefully on the kitchen table and activated the app. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The colonial Spanish was archaic, formal, difficult for the app to parse completely. But Maria got enough. Land grants, territories described in detail. Names, some Spanish, some recognizably indigenous. The royal seal of King Philip IV, dates from the 1600s, and crucially, acknowledgements of indigenous ownership. Transfers that appeared to recognize pre-colonial land rights. And there, in one document, a name that made her breath catch, Dulnuan, her family name, her ancestral name, listed among indigenous leaders who had negotiated with Spanish administrators, who had been granted recognition of their territories, whose rights had been documented and sealed and apparently hidden when those rights came under threat. Maria's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't just about her village. This was about her family, her bloodlines right to these mountains stretching back centuries before Spain, before America, before the Republic. She photographed the translated sections, knowing she didn't fully understand, but recognizing the weight of what she'd found. The next morning, Maria told Alon she needed to visit the provincial capital on market business. It was a 3-hour jeepney ride, expensive but necessary. "Can I come?" Alon asked. "I need to check on my scholarship application next time," Maria said too quickly. "I'll be back tonight." Alon's eyes narrowed with teenage suspicion, but she didn't push. Attorney Isabel Santos's office occupied the second floor of a building near the provincial capital. Maria had met her 2 years ago when the mining company first started pressuring villages to accept exploration permits. Isabel had come to give a community seminar on indigenous rights, young, passionate, full of fury at injustice. She'd been helping their barangay ever since, mostly for free. Maria! Isabel stood up from her cluttered desk, surprised. Is everything okay? Did something happen with the mining permits? No, yes, Maria closed the door. I need to show you something. In confidence, Isabel's expression sharpened into focus. Of course, sit. Maria pulled out her phone and showed the photographs, the cave, the chest, the documents. She showed the physical documents she'd brought, wrapped in plastic. She showed the gold coins, their weight solid in Isabel's. She watched the lawyer's face transform from curiosity to shock to something fierce and hungry, not for the gold, but for what the documents represented. Santa Maria, Isabel breathed, fingers trembling as she examined the parchment. Maria, do you understand what these are? Land grants, property documents? These are colonial-era acknowledgements of indigenous land ownership, legally binding under Spanish law, which forms the basis of Philippine property law. Isabel was speaking fast now, lawyer voice taking over. If these are authentic, and they look authentic, they could invalidate decades of land transfers. They could prove ancestral domain claims that the government has been denying for years. The mining lands? Yes, the contested territories. All of it. Isabel looked up, eyes blazing. This could stop Goldcrest mining. This could stop Congressman Marcelo's development plans. This is... Dios mío, Maria. This is ammunition in a legal war we've been fighting with slingshots. Maria felt something settle in her chest. Relief, maybe. Or the terrible weight of confirmation. But it's dangerous, Isabel continued, her excitement cooling into caution. If these documents are real, if they threaten major mining operations and political interests, you're in danger. Serious danger, I know. To you. Maria, men like Marcelo don't play by rules. People who stand in the way of million-dollar deals disappear. I've seen it happen. What should I do? Isabel sat back thinking, we need authentication. Historical experts, proper documentation. We need to move carefully, build a legal case before anyone knows what we have. But we also need to protect you. And we need... She paused. We need to decide if you're ready to fight this fight. Because once we start, there's no going back. Maria thought of Alon, dreaming of university, of her village, slowly losing ground to corporations and corrupt officials. Of her grandmother's voice, the spirits chose you. I want to fight, she said quietly. But I need to protect my daughter first. Understood. Isabel was already making notes. Leave copies of these documents with me. I'll start researching quietly. Meanwhile, tell no one, and I mean no one, about this discovery. Not friends, not family, not the priest. Information is our only advantage right now. Maria nodded, but her heart sank. She'd have to keep lying to Alon, to Dina, to everyone. That evening, Maria sought out Lolo Dagum. She found the old man at his small house on the village outskirts, surrounded by ancestral carvings and woven baskets, a lifetime's collection of traditional crafts. Maria, he said without surprise, as if he'd been expecting her. Come, sit. You found something. It wasn't a question. In his presence, Maria felt something release. She told him everything, the storm, the cave, the tunnel, the treasure. She showed him photographs on her phone. She watched his ancient face transform from listening patience to profound recognition. The guardian's burden, he said softly. Just as the legend said, Lolo, please, I need to understand. What legends? The old man rose slowly, joints creaking, and retrieved a wooden box from a high shelf. Inside, wrapped in cloth, were documents of his own. Aged paper, careful handwriting in Ibeloy and Old Spanish. My grandfather told me, Lolo Dagum said, and his grandfather told him. When the Spanish colonizers came, they made agreements with our leaders, treaties, land grants, recognition of ownership. But when new administrators arrived, hungry for land and gold, they tried to seize everything, called our documents fraudulent. That indigenous people had no right to own land. What happened? Our ancestors hid the proof, the documents, the agreements. They hid them with treasure, Spanish gold taken as payment or tribute, as a fund for resistance. They sealed everything in secret places and told only a few people, passed the knowledge down as oral history, as prophecy, waiting for the day when it would be needed again. A woman with a spirit animal, Maria whispered, remembering her grandmother's words. Who would find what was hidden? Yes, Lolo Dagum smiled, sad and proud. The spirits, or fate or chance or whatever you believe, chose you, Maria, because you're strong enough to carry this burden, wise enough to use it correctly, and brave enough to face what comes next. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear, child. It's moving forward despite it. He placed one weathered hand over hers. You've already decided to fight, haven't you? Maria nodded slowly. For Alon, for the village, for everyone who's been pushed off their land and told they have no rights, then fight. But carefully. Men like Congressman Marcelo are vipers. They strike fast when threatened. Attorney Isabel said the same thing. Isabel Santos is a good woman. Trust her. Work with her. Lolo Dagum's grip tightened. But know this, what you've found will divide our community. Some will support you. Others will blame you for bringing trouble. Some will want you to sell out and share the gold. Some will want you to give up the fight for the sake of peace. The path ahead is hard, Anak. It will test you. Maria met his eyes. Will you help me? I've been waiting my whole life to help you, the old man said. The spirits chose well. Maria returned home late to find Elon waiting up, arms crossed, face set in stubborn determination. Where were you really? Her daughter demanded. You've been acting strange since the typhoon. You're keeping secrets. Elon, don't lie to me, Nay. I'm not a child. Something happened in that cave, didn't it? Something more than finding Banlag. Maria wanted to lie. Wanted to protect her daughter from knowledge that could endanger her. But Alon was 17, nearly an adult, and she was right. She wasn't a child anymore. Still, Maria hesitated, and in that hesitation, something shifted in Elon's eyes. Hurt. Betrayal. Fine, Elon said coldly. Keep your secrets. But don't expect me to trust you either. She went to bed without another word, leaving Maria alone with the weight of her choices. That night, Maria lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The documents hidden under rice sacks felt like they were burning through the floor. The gold felt like lead weights on her conscience. She'd found something that could change everything. But change always came with a price. The question was whether her family, her community, could afford to pay it. The spirits chose you. Her grandmother whispered one last time. Then the spirits better protect me, Maria whispered back. Because I don't know how to do this alone. Tomorrow she would contact Isabel again. Tomorrow she would make plans. Tomorrow she would begin the fight. But tonight, she was just Maria Dulnuan, widow, mother, ordinary, woman holding extraordinary secrets, and she was terrified. Maria's meeting with Isabel the following week should have been routine, dropping off more document photographs, discussing next steps in careful whispers. Instead, it became the moment everything spiraled beyond her control. She returned home late afternoon to find her small house's door ajar. Her heart stopped. Alon? She rushed inside to find her daughter standing in the middle of their bedroom, holding the documents and gold coins that Maria had hidden. The storage trunk lay open, rice sacks scattered across the floor. What is this? Elon's voice shook, not with fear, but with fury. Ine, what the hell is this? Put those down carefully. Gold. Colonial documents? While you're telling me we can't afford new shoes, you're hiding treasure? Tears streamed down Elon's face. How could you lie to me? I was protecting you. From what? From not being poor anymore. Elon held up a gold coin, light glinting off its surface. Do you know what this is worth? Do you know what this means? We could pay for university. We could leave this place. We could have a real life. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You found treasure. You keep it, you sell it, and we use it to escape. Alon's voice rose hysterically. Why are you hiding it? Why are you sneaking around instead of celebrating? Maria tried to explain the documents, the land rights, the danger. But Alon was 17 and hurt and scared, and she'd spent years watching her mother struggle in poverty while dreaming of something more. She didn't want to hear about community responsibility or legal battles or mysterious dangers. The argument escalated. Words were thrown that couldn't be taken back. Accusations of distrust, accusations of selfishness, and then in a moment Maria would replay in her nightmares. Alon grabbed her phone. "Fine, if you won't use this to help us." "I will." "Alon, don't," but her daughter was already typing, fingers flying across the screen. Maria lunged for the phone, but Alon twisted away. She snapped a photo of the gold coin in her palm, the flash bright in their dim room. "There, posted. Now everyone knows." "What did you do?" Maria whispered. Alon's face cycled through emotions, defiant triumph to sudden doubt, to creeping horror as she seemed to realize what she'd done. I posted a picture. I said, we found something amazing. I didn't say what or where exactly." Maria grabbed the phone. The post was already there, on Alon's social media. The gold coin gleaming, a caption, "You won't believe what we found in the mountains. Life is about to change. Treasure hunt. Blessed life, Cordillera Mountains. Delete it. Now it's just a post, nay. It's not. Delete it." But it was already too late. Maria watched in horror as reactions and comments appeared. 1, 5, 10, dozens. Friends asking questions. Strangers commenting. Shares multiplying. Within an hour, the post had gone viral across the region. Within 2 hours, it had been screenshotted and shared to bigger accounts. Within 3 hours, Cordillera Treasure Found was trending locally. Maria called Isabel in a panic. "I saw," the lawyer said grimly. "Maria, I'm so sorry. This is bad. Really bad. What do I do?" "Lock your doors. Don't talk to anyone I don't clear first. I'm coming tomorrow with a proper contract and security plan." "And Maria?" Isabel's voice hardened. "Prepare yourself. Everyone is about to come looking for you." Isabel was right. The next morning, before sunrise, Maria was awakened by someone pounding on her door. She opened it to find Dina, face flushed with excitement and hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" her oldest friend demanded. "Treasure? You found treasure and didn't say anything?" "Dina, I can explain. Everyone's talking about it. The whole barangay. They're saying you're rich now, that you found Spanish gold, that you've been keeping it secret while we all thought you were struggling." Dina's voice cracked. "I'm your best friend, Maria. I lost my son in the same accident that took Luis. I thought we told each other everything." Maria felt something break inside her. "I wanted to tell you. I was going to. But it's dangerous, Dina. It's not just about gold." "Then what is it about?" Before Maria could answer, Father Miguel arrived. Then the barangay captain. Then neighbors Maria barely knew, all with questions and suggestions and demands. By mid-morning, her house was surrounded by villagers, some supportive, many not. "You should share it with the community. That treasure belongs to the barangay. You're being selfish. Don't let the government take it." Maria felt herself drowning in voices, in expectations, in judgment. Alon hid in their bedroom, finally understanding the magnitude of what she'd unleashed. Then the outsiders began arriving. Jake Reyes showed up first, a young, good-looking man with expensive camera equipment and a charming smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mrs. Dulnuan." "Jake Reyes, journalist from Manila. I'd love to interview you about your amazing discovery." He pushed through the crowd like he owned the place. "This is an incredible human interest story. Poor widow finds fortune. The feel-good story the nation needs. I'm not interested. I'm offering payment for exclusive rights." "Name your price." His smile widened. "Help me help you. Control the narrative before someone else does." Maria closed the door in his face. But she could see him through the window, already interviewing her neighbors, gathering quotes, building his story with or without her cooperation. By afternoon, men in business suits arrived, representatives from Goldcrest Mining. Though they didn't identify themselves immediately, they approached with professional courtesy, speaking to the barangay captain first, requesting a formal meeting. "Mrs. Dulnuan, We'd like to help you navigate your discovery properly. Mining companies have experience with these matters. We can ensure you're fairly compensated while protecting everyone's interests. I don't need help, of course not. But consider, you've found historical artifacts. The government will get involved. Things could get complicated legally. Wouldn't it be easier to have experienced partners? Their smiles were polite. Their eyes were calculating. Father Miguel pulled Maria aside after they left. Maria, I'm worried about you. This much wealth, this much attention, it's not healthy. The church could help. We could keep the treasure safe, manage it properly, use it for charitable purposes. Charitable purposes? For the community, for the parish. Think of the good we could do, a new chapel, better schools. The priest's face was earnest. Gold corrupts, Maria. Let the church bear that burden for you. Maria wanted to scream that it wasn't about the gold, that there were documents, legal implications, community rights at stake. But Father Miguel's eyes were already glazed with the sheen of wealth-inspired righteousness. That evening, Maria's phone rang. An unknown number. Mrs. Dulnuan? Me name is Thomas Chen. I'm the operations director for Goldcrest Mining Philippines. His voice was smooth, professional. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement regarding your discovery. I'm not interested in... Please, hear me out. We're not trying to take anything from you. Quite the opposite. We want to ensure you're protected and properly compensated. There are certain legal complications that could arise from your find. Historical documents, for instance, that might affect land use permits. A pause, heavy with meaning. We'd hate to see you caught up in bureaucratic nightmares. Or worse, legal troubles about the proper handling of national heritage artifacts. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. I'll think about it, Maria said, and hung up. Immediately her phone buzzed with a text message from an unlisted number. Be careful who you trust. Your daughter's safety depends on your decisions. Maria's hands shook so hard she dropped the phone. Isabel arrived that night, slipping in through the back door with a briefcase full of documents and a laptop. We need to move fast, she said without preamble. I've been researching. Those documents you showed me, Maria, they're potentially revolutionary. They prove ancestral domain claims that predate every land transfer in this region for the past 100 years. That's good, right? It's explosive. It means millions of pesos in mining contracts could be invalidated. It means Congressman Marcelo's entire development scheme, which he's been planning for years, could collapse. It means Goldcrest Mining's exploration permits are potentially illegal. Maria felt cold. So they'll do anything to stop us? Yes. Isabel's face was grave. But your daughter's post has actually given us one advantage. Publicity. They can't make you disappear quietly now. Too many people know. We can use that. But we need to control the narrative before they twist it against you. They worked late into the night planning strategy. Isabel would file a formal claim with the nation. Once it's on the record, they'll have to fight us legally instead of through intimidation, Isabel explained. It's not perfect protection, but it's something. What about Alon? Isabel hesitated. Keep her close. Don't let her travel alone. And Maria, I'm sorry, but you should prepare for things to get worse before they get better. After Isabel left, Maria found Alon sitting in their bedroom. Knees pulled to her chest, phone dark in her lap. Nay, I'm sorry, she whispered. I was angry. I didn't know. I know, Anak. Maria sat beside her daughter, pulled her close. But we can't undo it. We can only move forward now. I'm scared. Me too. They held each other in the darkness, mother and daughter, neither one knowing how to protect the other from what was coming. Maria's phone buzzed again, another unknown number. She let it ring. Outside, car engines hummed in the night. Strangers watched her house. In Manila, powerful men made phone calls. Plans were being made. Forces were converging. The secret was out. The battle had begun. And Maria Dulnuan, ordinary widow who'd only wanted to rescue her pig from a storm, stood at the center of a gathering storm she couldn't control, the guardian's burden. Indeed, Maria woke to voices outside her house, not the familiar sounds of her neighbors. but strangers arguing about camera angles and lighting positions. She pushed aside her curtain to see a news van parked on the narrow road, satellite dish extended. A reporter practicing her stand-up shot. The treasure of the Cordillera Mountains has captured the nation's attention, the reporter was saying, gesturing dramatically at Maria's humble house. It had been 48 hours since Alon's post went viral. 48 hours, and Maria's entire world had transformed into a circus. Dina arrived with breakfast, pandesal and coffee, and the grim news that 3 more journalists had checked into her sari store's boarding rooms. "I'm charging them double," Dina said defensively, catching Maria's look. "But Maria, seriously, how are you handling this? You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't." The truth was darker than simple insomnia. Last night Maria had heard someone trying her windows. This morning she'd found a dead bird left on her doorstep, a folk curse meant to frighten. The anonymous threatening messages kept coming. And worst of all, yesterday afternoon, Alon had called in tears from school. Men had been following her, taking pictures, asking questions about the treasure. They came right up to me, Nay. They knew my name. They knew our address. "I'm scared to leave campus." Maria had picked her up immediately. Had barely slept since, watching the darkness for threats she couldn't name now. Drinking Dina's coffee, Maria watched the news crew through her window and felt like prey being circled by predators. Jake Reyes was the first to gain access, charming the barangay captain into arranging a formal meeting. He arrived at noon with recording equipment and that smile that never reached his eyes. "Mrs. Dulnuan, thank you for seeing me. I've been digging into your story and I have to say, it's remarkable." He set up his equipment efficiently, professional. "A simple woman finds Spanish treasure during a typhoon. That's compelling. But I'm sensing there's more to this story than just gold." Maria said nothing, Isabel's words echoing. "Control the narrative. See, I've been looking into land disputes in this region. Mining permits, political connections." Jake leaned forward, dropping the charming facade for a moment, showing something sharper underneath. "Goldcrest Mining has been pushing to expand operations here for years. Congressman Marcelo has been their biggest supporter. And suddenly you find documents that might challenge their legal standing." "I found gold in a cave," Maria said carefully. "That's all? Is it though?" Jake's eyes were too intelligent, too focused. "Because I've been interviewing villagers." Old Lolo Dagum mentioned prophecies, ancestral claims, and I did some research. "Did you know your family name appears in colonial-era records? That there are historical references to indigenous leaders named Dulnuan, who negotiated land treaties with Spanish administrators?" Maria's heart raced, but she kept her face neutral. "You should interview Attorney Santos if you want legal information. I'm just a farmer who's become very interesting to some very powerful people." Jake clicked off his recorder. "Look, off the record, I've been covering corruption stories for years. Every time I get close to something real, my editors kill it. Advertisers complain. Political pressure builds. But this story is already public. It's already viral. I can actually publish it." He met her eyes. "Help me help you. Let me expose what's really happening here before they bury it. And you, under bureaucracy or worse, why should I trust you? You shouldn't, but you don't have many allies right now, do you?" Jake stood, packing his equipment. "Think about it. You have my number." An hour after Jake left, Thomas Chen's representatives arrived. 2 men and a woman, all in expensive business suits, carrying briefcases and false smiles. "Mrs. Dulnuan, we won't take much of your time," the woman said, setting papers on Maria's kitchen table without being invited. "Goldcrest Mining would like to make you a very generous offer." The number they wrote down made Maria's breath catch. More money than she'd see in 10 lifetimes of farming. "All we ask is that you sign a simple agreement. You'll receive this compensation. In return, you acknowledge that any historical documents you may have found are of unclear provenance and don't necessarily represent valid legal claims. You agree not to pursue any legal action that might affect our mining operations, and you allow proper authorities to handle the historical aspects of your discovery." You want me to say the documents don't matter? Maria said flatly. We want to avoid lengthy legal battles that would benefit no one. Think practically, Mrs. Dulnuan. This money could transform your life. Your daughter could attend any university. You could build a new house, live comfortably. The woman's smile hardened slightly. Or you could spend years fighting in courts you can't afford, making enemies of people you can't defeat, all for documents that might not even be legally valid anymore. Get out. Mrs. Dulnuan, get out. They left the papers anyway, the number glowing in Maria's peripheral vision like temptation itself. That afternoon, Isabel arrived and immediately noticed the papers on the table. They came. Yes, and? I told them no, Isabel exhaled in relief. Good, but Maria, we need to talk about what comes next. She pulled out her laptop, showing Maria a website. I've scheduled a press conference for tomorrow. We're going public with the legal claim, filing an ancestral domain petition with the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. Is that safe? No, but it's necessary. Right now, you're vulnerable because everything is rumors and speculation. Once we formalize the legal process, once the documents are officially registered, they become part of the public record. Harder to make disappear. Isabel's face was grave. But Maria, you need to understand, this makes it real. This means you're declaring war on some very powerful people. Before Maria could respond, Father Miguel knocked at the door. Maria, can we talk? The priest looked haggard, conflicted. Privately? They stepped outside. The news crew perked up, cameras swinging toward them, but Father Miguel waved them away irritably. I'm hearing things, he said quietly. Congressman Marcelo called the diocese. He's making suggestions about my parish funding, about my future assignments. The priest's hands trembled. Maria, I want to support you, but I have responsibilities. People depend on this parish. Are you asking me to give up? I'm asking you to consider compromise. Take some money. Let the documents go to a museum or the government. In this, before people get hurt. People are already getting hurt, Father. My community's been getting hurt for years, while corporations steal our land. But fighting might make it worse. These are dangerous men. Maria looked at the priest, this man who'd baptized Alon, who'd buried Luis, who'd counseled her through grief, and saw him clearly for the first time. He was a good man. He genuinely cared. But he'd spent so long accommodating power, making peace with injustice for the sake of institutional stability, that he'd forgotten how to stand for anything. I'm sorry, Father, Maria said gently, but I can't be that kind of Christian anymore. The kind who accepts crumbs and calls it God's will. He left looking wounded, and Maria felt the loss. Another relationship strained by her choice. The community meeting that evening was explosive. Isabel had arranged it, a chance to explain the legal situation to the village, to build community support. Instead, it became a battleground. You're risking all our futures. One farmer shouted, Goldcrest is offering jobs, development. What are you offering? A legal fantasy? Our land is already ours. Another voice countered. We shouldn't have to accept jobs on our own territory. Maria's documents prove it. Those documents are 300 years old. Who cares what the Spanish said? I care. Lolo Dagam struggled to his feet, commanding attention through sheer age and presence. Our ancestors cared enough to hide those documents, to preserve them, to wait for this day. Maria isn't creating this conflict. She's exposing a theft that's been ongoing for generations. But not everyone was convinced. Families who'd been promised employment by Goldcrest stood up and left. Others, desperate for economic opportunities, argued that fighting was pointless. The rich always won anyway. Why not get what they could? Dina defended Maria fiercely, but Maria could see the cost in her friend's face. Dina's store depended on community goodwill. Taking sides meant losing customers. In the chaos, Maria noticed Alon quietly filming on her phone. Not posting this time, just recording, documenting. Her daughter was learning. Sergeant Bautista attended in uniform, standing in the back. After the meeting dissolved into arguing factions, he approached Maria. Walk with me, he said quietly. They walked to the edge of the barangay, where the road gave way to forest. The sergeant lit a cigarette, offered one to Maria. She refused. "I got a call from my superiors," he said finally. "They want me to investigate you. Potential theft of national heritage artifacts. Improper removal of historical documents." Maria's stomach dropped. "Are you here to arrest me?" "I'm here to warn you." Bautista took a long drag. "Maria, I've known you since we were kids. I knew Luis. I'm from here. I know what these companies do to our communities." He paused. "But I'm also a cop. I have bosses. I have family to protect. There's only so much I can do." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying move fast. Get those documents officially registered before someone gives me orders I can't ignore. And be careful, very careful." He flicked ash into the darkness. "I heard rumors about professional treasure hunters asking questions in the province. About men with organized crime connections who've killed over less than what you found. Eric Alvarez?" Bautista looked surprised. "You know about him?" Jake Reyes mentioned the name. "Then you know he's dangerous. If Alvarez shows up here, call me immediately. But don't count on me being able to stop him." The sergeant met her eyes. "I'll delay things as long as I can. But my delay won't last forever." That night, after everyone had finally left, after the news crews packed up and the strangers returned to boarding houses, after Isabel headed back to the provincial capital with promises to finalize everything for tomorrow's press conference, after all that, Maria and Elon sat together in their small kitchen. "Are we going to be okay?" Elon asked quietly. Maria wanted to lie, wanted to promise safety, normalcy, easy endings. But her daughter had grown up fast in the past few days. She deserved honesty. "I don't know," Maria said. "But I know we're fighting for something right. That has to count for something." "I'm sorry," Elon whispered again. "If I hadn't posted, then something else would have triggered this eventually. Or nothing would have, and the documents would have stayed hidden, and our community would have lost more land." Maria took her daughter's hand. "Maybe you posting it wasn't the disaster it seemed. Maybe it was meant to happen. You sound like Lolo Dagum. Maybe he's right about some things." They sat in comfortable silence until Maria's phone buzzed. "Isabel. Texting from the road, press conference confirmed. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Provincial capital. Are you ready?" Maria typed back, "Ready as I'll ever be." Outside, Banlag grunted contentedly in his reinforced pen. The pig that had started all this, blessed or cursed by fate or spirits or simple animal instinct, slept peacefully while his owner lay awake worrying about the future. Tomorrow, everything would become official, public, irreversible. Tomorrow, Maria Dulnuan would step fully into her role as guardian. Fighter, reluctant revolutionary. Tonight, she was just a frightened widow, wondering if she'd made the right choice. But morning was coming, ready or not. And with it, the real battle would begin. The provincial capital building looked imposing in the morning light, all concrete and glass, symbols of government authority that usually intimidated Maria. Today, flanked by Isabel and Lolo Dagum, with Alon holding her hand tightly, Maria climbed the steps with her head high. The press conference room was packed. Local reporters, national media, bloggers with cameras. Maria spotted Jake Reyes in the front row, notebook ready. Somewhere in the back, she recognized faces from Goldcrest Mining, watching with cold calculation. Isabel took the podium first, lawyer confident, laying out the legal framework with precision. "We are filing a formal ancestral domain claim on behalf of the Dulnuan family and the indigenous communities of this region. Historical documents discovered recently prove continuous indigenous occupation and documented land rights dating to the Spanish colonial period. These documents, authenticated by Dr. Ramon Torres of the National Historical Commission, demonstrate that current land transfers and mining permits may be legally invalid." The room erupted with questions. Isabel handled them smoothly, revealing just enough to make the case compelling, while protecting critical details. When she mentioned Spanish colonial land grants bearing royal seals, cameras flashed frantically. Then it was Maria's turn. Her hands shook as she approached the microphone. She'd never spoken publicly like this, had barely finished elementary school, had spent her life being invisible. Now dozens of eyes watched, recording devices captured every word, and the weight of her community's future pressed on her shoulders. "My name is Maria Dulnuan," she began, voice trembling. "I'm a widow, a farmer, a mother. I never wanted attention or trouble. I just wanted to raise my daughter and live peacefully in the mountains my family has called home for generations." She told the story simply: the typhoon, Banlag's escape, the cave discovery. She didn't mention every detail Isabel had advised keeping confidential, but she spoke from the heart about what the discovery meant. "I found gold, yes. But more importantly, I found proof. Proof that my ancestors owned these lands legally. Proof that we weren't just squatters or primitives who could be pushed aside whenever corporations wanted our resources. Proof that we matter, that we've always mattered." Her voice grew stronger. "Some people have offered me money to make this go away. A lot of money, enough to change my life. But how do I explain to my daughter that I sold out her heritage for comfort? How do I face my ancestors who hid these documents, who preserved them for this exact moment?" Maria looked directly at the cameras. "I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for every indigenous family that's been told their land doesn't belong to them. For every community watching their sacred mountains torn apart for profit. For every child who should inherit their ancestral home, but instead inherits poverty and displacement." The room was silent now, rapt. "I'm just one woman. I'm scared. But I'm also determined, and I'm asking anyone who believes in justice, in indigenous rights, in truth, please support us. Help us fight this fight." The applause started slowly, then built. Maria saw tears on some faces, anger on others. But she'd done it. She'd taken her stand publicly, irreversibly. Isabel filed the official claim immediately after, the documents becoming part of the legal record. Stamped and sealed and impossible to ignore. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, the story went national. "Indigenous woman challenges mining giant with colonial treasure," screamed the headlines. Social media exploded with support and backlash. Human rights organizations issued statements of solidarity. Progressive politicians praised Maria's courage. Mining industry groups condemned what they called opportunistic exploitation of historical artifacts. Jake's article, published that afternoon, was different from the others. He didn't focus on the treasure's value or the feel-good angle. Instead, he detailed Goldcrest Mining's environmental record, Congressman Marcello's financial ties to the company, the pattern of indigenous communities being displaced across the Philippines. He connected Maria's discovery to broader issues of land rights, corporate exploitation, and political corruption. One widow with Spanish documents might seem like an unlikely threat to a multinational corporation, Jake wrote. But Maria Dulnuan has done something revolutionary. She's made visible what powerful people wanted to keep hidden. Now the question is whether the Philippines will side with its indigenous people or continue selling their heritage to the highest bidder. The article went viral, getting picked up by international outlets. Maria's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with interview requests, but not all responses were positive. 3 days after the press conference, Congressman Marcello requested a meeting. Not an invitation, a summons. It came through official channels. Formally worded, impossible to refuse without appearing uncooperative. Isabel insisted on attending. So did the barangay captain, providing official witness. They met at an expensive restaurant in the city, the kind of place Maria had never entered in her life, where the menu prices made her dizzy. Marcello arrived with an entourage, lawyers, assistants Thomas Chen from Goldcrest Mining, Father Miguel looking deeply uncomfortable. The congressman himself was exactly as Maria expected, handsome, charming, perfectly groomed. He greeted her warmly, as if they were old friends. "Mrs. Dulnuan, finally we meet properly. Please sit. Order anything you like. This is my treat." The private dining room was lavishly decorated. Waiters hovered. Everything was designed to intimidate, to remind Maria of the power imbalance between them. Marcelo spent the first 10 minutes making small talk, asking about Alon, praising Maria's bravery in coming forward. His smile never wavered, but his eyes were calculating, measuring, searching for weakness. Then Thomas Chen took over, laying out what he called a reasonable compromise. We've reviewed the documents your lawyer filed. They're certainly interesting, historical value, definitely. But legally, he shrugged. Colonial-era grants don't automatically supersede modern property law. The legal battles could take decades, cost millions, destroy your life. What are you proposing? Isabel asked coldly. Goldcrest Mining will pay Mrs. Dulnuan 5 million pesos. We'll establish a community development fund, another 10 million. We'll acknowledge indigenous heritage in our operations. In exchange, the ancestral domain claim is withdrawn. The documents go to the National Museum where they belong. Everyone wins, 15 million pesos. More money than Maria could comprehend. She thought of Alon's scholarship worries, of their house's leaking roof, of every hardship money could solve. That's very generous, Maria said carefully. But the documents aren't just mine. They belong to my community, to all indigenous communities fighting for recognition. Marcelo's smile tightened slightly. Mrs. Dulnuan, let me be direct. You're a good woman, a devoted mother. You're not a lawyer or an activist. You stumbled into something complicated and now you're in over your head. He leaned forward, voice dropping to paternal concern. Take the settlement. Secure your daughter's future. Let the experts handle the legal and historical aspects. Walk away from this while you still can. Is that a threat? It's advice, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. You're making very powerful people very nervous. Billions of pesos are at stake. Mining operations, development projects, political careers. These aren't people who lose gracefully. Isabel started to object, but Marcelo held up a hand. Let me finish. Mrs. Dulnuan has filed claims that, if validated, could invalidate land transfers going back generations. Do you understand what that means? Chaos, legal nightmares, and backlash, not just against her, but against indigenous communities everywhere. Will be painted as obstacles to progress. Land grabbers, extortionists, Thomas Chen nodded. We're trying to avoid that scenario. We're offering a path that gives everyone something. Otherwise, he spread his hands. Otherwise, this gets ugly. Long court battles, character assassination. Questions about the document's authenticity. Questions about your motives, Mrs. Dulnuan, about whether you're being manipulated by radical activists. He glanced at Isabel. About whether this is really about indigenous rights or personal enrichment. We're prepared for legal battles, Isabel said sharply. Are you prepared for criminal charges? Marcelo's voice hardened, the charming mask slipping. Theft of national heritage artifacts? Illegal excavation of historical sites? There are laws, Mrs. Dulnuan. Laws you may have broken when you removed items from that cave. We've already spoken to the National Museum. They're very concerned. Maria felt ice in her stomach. I was protecting them. That's not how prosecutors will frame it. Marcelo's smile was gone now, replaced by cold calculation. You took gold and historical documents without proper authorization. You didn't report your discovery to authorities immediately. You've been hiding national treasures in your home. These are serious crimes. You're threatening to have her arrested, Isabel demanded. I'm explaining legal reality. The National Museum could file complaints. The police would have to investigate. Mrs. Dulnuan could face years in prison. Marcelo paused. Unless, of course, this entire unfortunate situation is resolved privately. Then perhaps those complaints aren't filed. Perhaps everyone moves on with their lives. Father Miguel finally spoke, voice pained. Maria, please, consider the settlement. This isn't the hill to die on. Maria looked around the table, at these powerful men in expensive suits, at the priest who'd already chosen his side, at Isabel's furious face, at the luxurious room, designed to remind her of her place in the hierarchy. She thought of Luis, dead in a mining accident while making money for men like these. She thought of her grandmother, hiding documents for a day like this. She thought of Alon, watching to see what her mother would do. No, Maria said quietly. I'm sorry. Marcelo's eyebrows rose. No, I won't withdraw the claim. I won't take your money, and I won't let you frighten me into giving up. Maria stood, legs trembling but voice steady. You can threaten me. You can drag me through courts. You can try to destroy my reputation. But those documents are real. The injustice they expose is real. And I won't be silent about it just because speaking up is inconvenient for you. Marcelo's face darkened. The charming politician vanished entirely, replaced by something ruthless and ugly. You're making a serious mistake, Mrs. Dulnuan. A mistake that will cost you dearly. I'm giving you one last chance to reconsider. She said no. Isabel interjected, standing. We're done here. As they left, Marcelo called after them. Think about your daughter, Mrs. Dulnuan. Think very carefully about what happens to her when you're fighting legal battles you can't afford. When you're potentially facing criminal charges. When you're painted as a criminal and a fraud in every newspaper in the country. Your stubbornness won't seem so noble when Alon pays the price. Maria didn't turn around. She walked out with her head high, Isabel beside her, the barangay captain following nervously, but her hands shook. Her heart raced. Because Marcelo's threats weren't empty. He had power, resources, connections. He could make her life hell. He could destroy her, and he would. Outside the restaurant, Isabel gripped Maria's arm. You were incredible in there. Brave beyond words. I'm terrified, Maria admitted. Good, you should be. But you did the right thing. Isabel's jaw set determinedly. Now we fight, properly, publicly, and we don't give them an inch. That evening, back in the village, Maria held a community meeting. She explained what had happened, what was offered, what she'd refused. The village divided further, some praising her courage, others cursing her stubbornness. Lolo Dagum spoke, Maria has done what our ancestors hoped someone would do. Stand firm, fight, the path ahead is hard, but it's righteous. Alon hugged her mother tightly. I'm proud of you, Nay. Scared, but proud. Jake published another article that night, framing the meeting as proof of corporate intimidation tactics. The story kept building, kept spreading, but so did the threats. Anonymous calls, menacing messages, and somewhere in the darkness, forces were mobilizing against Maria Dulnuan, the ordinary widow who'd refused to stay in her place. The battle lines were drawn. There was no going back now. The harassment began subtly, then escalated with cruel efficiency. First came the government inspectors, men in official vests with clipboards, suddenly discovering violations Maria's property had apparently harbored for years. Her house lacked proper building permits. Her vegetable garden encroached on public land. Her vendor's license had expired 3 years ago. It hadn't. Each violation came with fines she couldn't afford, threats of prosecution, mandatory hearings scheduled during impossible hours. This is coordinated, Isabel fumed, reviewing the citations. Every agency tied to Marcelo's political network suddenly cares about minor infractions. It's textbook intimidation. Maria's water access was next. The community irrigation system mysteriously shut off flow to her property, a maintenance issue that affected no one else. She had to carry water from Dinah's store in heavy buckets, her back aching, her pride wounded by public humiliation. The neighbors watched. Some helped quietly. Others turned away, afraid association would bring similar punishment. Then the threats became personal. A dead bird appeared on her doorstep, a traditional curse. Maria disposed of it before Alon saw, but the message was clear. Someone was watching, sending signals in the language of folk intimidation. Her truck's tires were slashed overnight. 4 new tires she couldn't afford, and worst of all, men began following Alon. Nay, they were there again today, Alon said, voice shaking. At the jeepney stop. 2 men in a grey sedan. They took pictures of me. They knew my name. Maria's terror crystallized into something harder. Threaten her. Fine, but threaten her daughter. That crossed a line even fear couldn't protect. She called Sergeant Bautista immediately. He came, took notes, made sympathetic noises. But his hands were tied. Unless they actually do something, I can't act. Following someone isn't technically illegal if they're in public spaces. Taking photos isn't assault. He looked miserable. "Maria, I'm getting pressure from above to arrest you. The theft charges Marcelo mentioned, they're being formalized. My superior wants me to execute a warrant. When? Soon. I'm stalling, but..." He shook his head. "Move fast. Whatever you're doing legally, do it faster." The community fractured more visibly each day. Some families, those promised employment by Goldcrest, those afraid of retaliation, began actively opposing Maria. They held their own meetings, circulated petitions asking her to withdraw the claim for the good of the community. "You're destroying our future," one farmer shouted at her in the market. "Goldcrest was going to bring jobs, development. Now they're threatening to pull out entirely because of your legal problems." "Those jobs would be on our own land," Maria shot back. "We'd be employees on territory that belongs to us. Better employees than poor. Better something than your legal fantasy." The argument escalated until Dina intervened, pulling Maria away. But the damage was done. The village was splitting into factions, Maria's supporters versus those who wanted quick economic solutions, regardless of the cost to indigenous rights. Dina herself was struggling. Her sari store depended on community goodwill. Taking Maria's side meant alienating customers. She'd already lost business from families aligned with the mining company. Jake Reyes uncovered a name that changed everything: Eric Alvarez. "He's in the province," Jake told Maria urgently, showing her photos from his research. "Professional treasure hunter. He's worked with organized crime syndicates, has a reputation for violence. He's been asking around about your cave, offering money for information. People are talking to him, Maria. Someone will tell him where it is." Alvarez's face in the photos was ordinary enough, middle-aged, weathered, the face of any rural Filipino. But his eyes carried something predatory, obsessive. This was a man for whom treasure hunting wasn't hobby, but compulsion. "He doesn't care about land rights or documents," Jake continued. "He wants the gold, and he'll hurt anyone who gets between him and it." That same evening, Dina burst into Maria's house, face pale. "He came to my store. Alvarez, he knew I'm your friend. He asked where the cave is." Dina's hands trembled. "Maria," he said. "He said, if I didn't tell him, he'd burn down my store. With my family inside. Did you tell him?" "No, but..." Dina started crying. "Maria, I have grandchildren. I can't lose them. If he comes back, if he threatens them again, I don't know what I'll do." Maria held her friend, feeling the weight of responsibility crushing her. Every person who helped her became a target. Every act of solidarity invited retaliation. Isabel worked frantically to expedite the legal process, filing emergency protective orders, trying to get the ancestral domain hearing moved up. But bureaucracy moved slowly, and their enemies had advantages: connections, money, the weight of institutional power. "The judge assigned to your case is retiring next month," Isabel reported grimly. "Which means Marcelo's people will try to delay until a judge they've influenced takes over. And the National Museum is officially requesting charges be filed against you for improper handling of artifacts. Can they arrest me? Sergeant Bautista is being ordered to. He's delaying, but he can't refuse forever without losing his job, or worse." Father Miguel visited again, this time without the pretense of casual concern. "Maria, this has gone too far. People are being hurt. Families are fighting. Your friend's store is threatened. Elon is being followed by dangerous men." His voice was desperate. "I'm begging you, for the love of Christ, for your daughter's safety, end this. Take whatever settlement they're still offering and make it stop. If I stop, nothing changes. The corporations still win. Indigenous rights still don't matter. The next person who finds evidence gets the same threats, and maybe they'll be too scared to fight. Better that than people dying. People are already dying, Father, slowly from poverty and displacement, from mining accidents like the one that killed Luis, from being pushed off land that's rightfully theirs. I'm just making that violence visible instead of hidden." Father Miguel left looking broken, and Maria wondered if she'd lost him entirely. Another relationship sacrificed to this fight, The breaking point came suddenly. Lolo Dagum held a traditional ritual for protection, a ceremony invoking ancestral spirits, asking for strength and safety. It was partly spiritual, partly political theatre, a visible show of indigenous solidarity. Maria's supporters gathered, maybe 30 people from the village and surrounding areas. They wore traditional clothing, performed ancient chants, made offerings according to customs centuries old. It was beautiful and defiant, a declaration that they wouldn't be erased. The opposition held a counter-gathering the same evening, families supporting Goldcrest, demanding Maria withdraw her claim. They carried signs: progress, not poverty; jobs, not lawsuits; one woman's greed hurts everyone. The two groups faced each other across the village square, tension crackling like electricity. Then someone threw a stone. Maria never saw who. One moment, uneasy standoff. The next, chaos, shouting, shoving, fists flying. Young men from both sides clashed. Lolo Dagum nearly got knocked down. Dina's nephew, young Thomas, just 22, tried to separate fighters and caught an elbow to the face. Blood streaming from his nose. Sergeant Bautista and 2 officers arrived, broke it up, but the damage was done. The violence made everything real. Abstract principles became concrete. Blood, bruises, fractured relationships that might never heal. That night, Maria made the hardest decision of her life. "You're leaving," she told Alon. "Tonight. You're going to stay with your aunt in Baguio until this is over." "No. Nay, I'm not abandoning you." "You're not abandoning me." "You're staying safe." "Elon, those men following you, they're serious. If Alvarez or Marcelo's people think they can get to me through you—" Maria couldn't finish the thought. "Please, do this for me." Alon fought, cried, argued, but ultimately she understood. They packed quickly, just one bag keeping it low profile. Dina's husband drove them to the bus station under cover of darkness, checking constantly for followers. At the bus stop, Maria held her daughter one last time. "I love you so much," she whispered. "Everything I'm doing, it's for your future. For the world you'll inherit, I know. I'm sorry I didn't understand before. I'm sorry I posted." "No more apologies. What's done is done. We move forward." Maria pulled back, forcing a smile. "Study hard, stay safe, and know that your nay is fighting for something important." The bus pulled away, taking Alon towards safety. Maria watched until the taillights disappeared, then allowed herself exactly 2 minutes to cry before returning home. The house felt unbearably empty. The next morning, Jake published his most damning article yet, a detailed exposé connecting Alvarez to Marcelo through financial records and witness statements. It revealed that Alvarez had worked as an independent contractor for political figures before, intimidating land claimants, destroying evidence, occasionally making problems disappear permanently. The article created a firestorm. Human rights organizations demanded investigations. International media picked up the story. Marcelo issued furious denials, threatening to sue Jake for defamation, but it also made everything more dangerous. Now everyone knew Alvarez was involved. Now everyone knew the stakes. The illusion of civilized legal disagreement shattered completely. That afternoon, Sergeant Bautista arrived at Maria's house with an arrest warrant. His face was agonized. "Maria, I have no choice. I've delayed as long as possible. If I don't execute this, they'll remove me and send someone who will. I understand, but—" He glanced around, lowered his voice. "I'm giving you 2 hours. I'm going to stop for lunch, file some paperwork. 2 hours before I officially come back with this warrant. If you need to talk to Isabel, to arrange bail, to prepare, do it now." After he left, Maria called Isabel in a panic. 2 hours. "He's given me 2 hours. I'm on my way. Don't talk to anyone. Don't answer your door. I'll be there in 90 minutes with a legal plan." Maria waited, every minute stretching like hours. She thought about running, about taking whatever gold remained hidden and disappearing into the mountains. But that would mean abandoning everything. The fight, her community, the purpose that had chosen her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "The sergeant is giving you time to run. Don't waste it. They're coming for more than just your freedom. Another text, this one an image. Alon's bus, photographed from a car following it. Your daughter is safe. For now, keep her safe by making smart choices. Maria's hands shook so violently she dropped the phone. They knew where Alon was. They were following her daughter. Everything, the courage, the determination, the righteous anger, all of it crumbled before one terrible truth. They could hurt Alon. They would hurt Alon if Maria didn't surrender. She was still staring at the phone, paralyzed by fear, when she heard vehicles outside. Multiple vehicles arriving fast. But it wasn't Sergeant Bautista's police car. It was a truck, and men were getting out, 4 of them, moving with purpose toward her house. Maria recognized the man in front from Jake's photos. Eric Alvarez had come for his treasure, and Maria was alone. Alvarez burst into Maria's house with armed men, threatening Alon's life unless Maria revealed the cave's location. As they dragged her through the village square, Lolo Dagum and young Thomas formed a human barrier. Sergeant Bautista arrived, but Alvarez seized Maria as a hostage, gun to her head. In the chaos, Bautista moved. Gunshots erupted. Thomas tackled Maria to safety, taking a bullet to his shoulder. Blood everywhere. Alvarez escaped. At the hospital, Thomas survived surgery, but Maria drowned in guilt until Dina said firmly, "It's not your fault. It's theirs." The violence shocked the nation into seeing the truth. Images of bloodied Thomas went viral. Human rights groups rallied. Goldcrest Mining suspended operations under shareholder pressure. The National Commission expedited Maria's hearing. Expert witnesses authenticated the documents. Maria testified simply about finding proof her ancestors owned the land, about refusing to be bought or silenced. The commission ruled in her favor. Ancestral domain, claim validated, mining permits suspended. Thomas Chen proposed revolutionary settlement terms, formal recognition of indigenous rights, community development trust, limited mining with indigenous oversight and profit sharing. The gold would be divided between Maria, national heritage, and the community. It wasn't total victory, but it was real transformative compromise. The formal signing ceremony blended traditional rituals with modern law. 6 months later, Maria administered the community trust funding education, healthcare, and economic development. The treasure resided in the National Museum's Cordillera Heritage Wing, telling the true history. Maria had given most of her share away to Thomas, Dina, struggling families. On the discovery's anniversary, Maria spoke at the cave. "I was the guardian by accident, by pig, but you all became guardians too." She returned to farming, watching Alon study law in Manila, knowing the guardian's fortune was never the gold. It was the courage to stand, the wisdom to fight, and proof that sometimes the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.